Hello, my name is Muhuli Roy Ganguly. I'm in the ninth grade and I go to LaSalle College Preparatory in the city of Pasadena. The topic I will be presenting is herd immunity for SARS-CoV-2. I hypothesize that if a country has a low reproduction value or R naught, a high percentage of the population practicing social distancing, and a high vaccination rate, then the total number of infections and the total number of deaths will be as low as it possibly can be. I use the interactive SIM pandemic tool to estimate how different R naught values, vaccination, and social distancing percentages impact herd immunity for 4 different countries and one case incident from April 2020. For trial 1, I ran the tool with different percentages of the people vaccinated within a given population of 100,000. The effects of social distancing, masks, or travel restrictions were not studied in this trial. There were also no business closures or government-mandated quarantines. For trial 2, however, I incorporated social distancing in my study for all the countries. This trial did not take into account lockdowns, quarantines, testing, business closures, or travel restrictions. For trial 1, we're going to look at the data from India, as it is the country with the lowest R naught, and the Diamond Princess cruise incident, since it has the highest R naught from this chosen group. The blue line represents total infections, and the orange line represents the number of COVID-related deaths within this population. Both display a downward trend. The first major drop was when 40% of the population was vaccinated, where it went from 47,364 total infections to 1,022. When comparing the data collected from India and the data collected from Diamond Princess cruise, you'll see that the total infections and the total deaths do not change almost at all. The most significant takeaway for trial 1 of this experiment is that the countries who had a low R naught were not impacted by vaccine changes, while countries or scenarios that had a high R naught did not change substantially. Now we're going to focus on India and the Diamond Princess cruise graphs again for trial 2. This time we'll see that the number of cases and the number of deaths dropped earlier on for India. The first significant drop was when 30% of the population stayed social distance and 20% of the population became vaccinated. The number of infected cases went from 47,678 to 19 total infections. Conversely, when 30% of the population stayed socially distant and 20% of the population became vaccinated for Diamond Princess cruise, case totals went from 100,000 infections only to 99,980. The first major drop occurred when 90% remained socially distant and 80% of passengers got vaccinated, where it decreased from 80,336 to 20 total infections. Thus, for trial 2, the key takeaway is that with the implementation of social distancing, every country and scenario tested in this experiment changed. Specifically, the number of cases and deaths considerably decreased. Countries with a low R naught achieved herd immunity at a lower vaccination and social distancing percentage than countries with a high R naught. So why is this all important? Well, it's because it proves that different countries must approach the ongoing pandemic differently. The US would not have the same lockdown or social distancing plans as France, since their two R naughts are so different. Regardless of vaccine and social distancing percentages, the number of cases, deaths, and people immune all depend on the reproductive value of the disease.